Hello, everyone, and welcome to the After Show, a podcast related to all things Jeopardy, more specifically the National College Championship, which wrapped up on Tuesday, February 22nd on ABC. 36 undergrads from 36 colleges and universities from across the country competed in a battle of wits for a grand prize of $250,000. I'm your host, Jeric, one of those lucky 36, and joining me today are the three finalists: Jaskaran Singh, who represented the University of Texas at Austin; Raymond Goslow, who represented Kennesaw State University in Kennesaw, Georgia; and Liz Feltner, who represented Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. The following conversation will include outcome spoilers related to the finals, as well as the tournament as a whole. So if you haven't already watched the Jeopardy National College Championship, or the JNCC for short, you can stream all 9 one-hour episodes on Hulu. We hope you enjoy. All right. What a lineup we have here today. Why don't we start with introductions, your name, the school you represented in the tournament, and your major.
Alrighty. Hi, I'm Liz. I represented Northeastern in the tournament, and I am a political science and business major.
I'm Raymond Goslow. I represented Kennesaw State University, and I'm a geospatial sciences major.
My name is Jaskaran Singh. I represented UT Austin in the tournament, and I'm a finance and econ major.
Great. And before we start, I want to first thank Jaskaran and Liz for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on this podcast, as well as Raymond, who was in the last episode of the After Show. Now, at the time of us recording this episode, it's been, oh man, my script here says 12 days, but it's definitely been more than 12 days. Almost a month, really. Today's March 20th, right? Yeah. Almost a month since the finale, giving us contestants some time to unwind and relax from the hype going into the tournament. But I can see how that can be a little bit difficult with you three placing at the top. Jaskaran, how has it been being known as the quote-unquote the guy who won big on Jeopardy on campus? Were you expecting the level of fame you were experiencing? I know you said right before our call that the fame's died down a little bit, but I know the week the finale aired, there were some photos and videos of you at one of UT Austin's basketball games, and it seems like you were having a lot of fun.
Yeah. For a couple of weeks after, it's definitely pretty crazy. I was getting stopped and stuff for pictures, and pretty much everywhere I went, I was getting recognized. It was a lot. The support was definitely like overwhelming from the university as well. But now that it's died down, I'm glad things have kind of gone back to normal. So
that's good to hear. Liz, I know Northeastern threw a campus watch party for you on finale night, and it looked like a lot of the student body came out to support you. Did the vibe of the room change at all from the start of the finals to the end? Were there people who were frustrated you didn't win, or were people positive and uplifting throughout the night?
It was actually really funny. I didn't really know that they were doing a watch party until that day. It was a little slapdash. And I emailed the entire student body and said, we're going to have free pizza. We're celebrating Liz. It was a picture of me, like my press photo of me on the set, and then just like a pizza emoji. And they just sent this out to the entire student body and we're like, come to this place at this time and get pizza. And also Liz is there, you know? So it was a little bit weird because a lot of people showed up and didn't really know what was going on. I had someone ask me what Jeopardy was. I was like, okay, fine. But the people who stuck around were really nice. I think the people who had been following the tournament, I don't think anybody expected me to win. And so I was kind of just there to have fun, see all my friends.
That's great. Was there an after party of some sort that you held, or was it just that party?
Not that night. That was like a Tuesday and it was raining and it was just an evening altogether. But I did have a get together with some friends that Thursday, which was a lot of fun.
Gotcha. Raymond, I know we touched upon your watch party experiences in the last episode, but we didn't get into much detail about your finale watch party. From what I remember, you held yours on campus at KSU and even gave a short speech afterwards about your plans for the future. So my first question is, how much planning went into organizing your finale watch party? I know there was like a 5-day turnaround time to prepare everything between your semifinal episode and the finale, but did you have any involvement in the prep process for that?
I didn't really have much involvement in the process. As soon as it was public knowledge that I was moving on to the final, I got in touch with like my press contact at the school and asked about setting up a party. And he told me that they were already basically setting one up. And Kennesaw State has 2 campuses, and one of them, the Kennesaw campus, is definitely like the main campus, but the Marietta campus is pretty big too. So they set up parties on both campuses and basically just confirmed with me which campus I was going to be at, which I was at the Kennesaw campus, the main one. And then everything else was all the school. And there was a lot of work that went into it. They set up hundreds and hundreds of chairs. They got like the student radio station to come and like play music during the commercial breaks. And there were the cheerleaders were there, like leading people in cheers during the commercial breaks. And they had a confetti cannon that went off at the end. So there was definitely a ton of planning that went into it, but I just basically had to show up. So that was nice.
Sounds like there were a ton of surprises you weren't expecting.
I know, yeah.
That was going to be my question. Was there anything that surprised you at all? But it sounds like all those things were completely unexpected. And before we move on, could you summarize the little speech that you gave to your audience after the finale aired?
Gosh, it's been a month. I don't know if I remember it that well. Basically, I just talked about how obviously coming in second wasn't the ending that people were hoping for, especially with like how well I did in my first two games. But it just meant that there was unfinished business for someone else at Kennesaw State to maybe come to the tournament in a future year and finish the deed.
Gotcha. So inspiring the youth of Kennesaw State is
exactly.
Gotcha. All right, with that out of the way, it's time to move on to questions about the Jeopardy journey. Raymond, I already asked you most of these questions when you were on last time, but if you feel like there's anything that you want to add on to, feel free to interject. So, Jaskaran and Liz, my first question is quite simple. Why Jeopardy? Is it because you know a lot of things? Do you have a background in trivia? Essentially, tell us why you auditioned for the show in the first place.
Yeah, so I watched the show a lot when I was really young, like 5, 6, 7 years old, and then fell out of it for a while. Then I think I auditioned when I was 13 for the teen tournament. Didn't end up making it then. But then my parents were like, hey, you should like go for it again. I had done Quiz Bowl in high school and really enjoyed it. So they were like, hey, try out, and try it out.
Yeah, so for me, I grew up watching Jeopardy with my family. We watched it every night. It was just kind of our thing. I take the test a couple of times, just the adult test, and then for me, Jeopardy is just the best, I guess, fit for me personally. I didn't do Quiz Bowl or anything like that, and I found just from watching it, I have a pretty broad set of knowledge, but it's not very deep at all. So even when I go to things like bar trivia, or when I watch a show that's, I don't know, more tough, I can't think of anything, but like any other trivia show, I think it's more difficult, whereas Jeopardy is a lot, I guess, broader and less deep. So it made more sense for me. And I grew up watching it. I love Jeopardy.
What did your timelines look like? I'm sure you'll both have similar answers, but I think people would still find it interesting to know when you took the online test, when you took the second online test, when you did your mock game / interview, and finally when you got the coveted text or call.
Yeah, I took the online test in November of 2020. Then I had the second Zoom online test in December 2020. And then I did my mock game audition in January 2021. And then I didn't get the text until September of 2021.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the second online test. I have like no memory of that. I remember taking the online test in November 2020, like was said. And then I just remember in January 2021, I did the Zoom audition. And then after 6 or 7 months, they called me and did a couple phone interviews. And then they asked if I'd like to come on. And yeah.
Okay, so next question. Knowing that you'd be on the show, what was your preparation for the college tournament like? All 36 of us were in the middle of our fall semester, so I'm curious as to how you made time to prepare and study.
I think when I was like reading stuff on Reddit and like what other people had said about it, they were saying like buzzing is pretty much a lot. Like it's a lot of the game, especially when all the contestants are so smart. So I like watched previous games, and as the questions would end, I would like sit at home, like clicking on a pen to simulate, I guess, buzzing. I think that was probably most of the preparation I did for a couple of weeks leading up to November.
So is it fair to say most of your prep went into buzzing rather than acquiring more knowledge?
Yeah, I kind of think like you're kind of at where you're at prior to taping. Like I think figuring out ways to like play the game better, I think is probably the best way to go about it rather than like acquiring more knowledge.
Raymond, I think last episode you said something similar.
Yeah, I definitely didn't cram knowledge or anything. For me, it was less of the physical aspects of the game and more of the mental aspects of the game. Like don't freak out, that kind of stuff, but definitely a similar mindset of knowledge is where it's at.
And how about you, Liz?
Yeah, I did a little bit of the buzzing with the TV. Like I watched every single night, like militantly, and I always had something in my hand, like whatever was nearby. So like a spoon or a pen or like at one point I remember having a kitchen knife and pretending to buzz on the handle. And my roommate was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I'm watching Jeopardy. I'm playing along." I do think that helped just a little bit to practice the timing because I know that's the big thing that's important. And I think it was the biggest challenge for everybody when we actually got out there. I did cram though. I will say I didn't have a ton of time because I am spread quite thin, but that's just how it is. I was kind of looking into things that I knew would be on Jeopardy that I knew I could brush up on. Like there's certain things that I know I don't know and I knew I couldn't learn in like a month and a half, like sports. Like I wasn't going to learn every athlete, every like I don't even know anything about sports to be able to make a reference. Every Heisman winner, like that wasn't going to come to me. But things like classic lit and Shakespeare plays, I had approximate knowledge of, and I wanted to make sure I knew the specifics of, like geography, knowing certain countries and capitals, and just solidifying some of the associations I already had. And I found that was actually really, really useful. I mean, I can think of a couple of clues off the top of my head that I got in the games where I was tied that I knew because it was something that I had studied. So I do think it paid off because even just getting one less question right would have been a very different game for me.
So you basically polished up on the knowledge you already knew, brush up, nothing too crazy.
Exactly. Like strengthen my strengths and ignore my weaknesses.
I see. Okay, so now I want to fast forward to the last day of taping, November 23rd, 2021. Seems so long ago. It's like 4 months ago. 12 players remain, and by the end of the day, someone was going to be $250,000 richer. Jazz, I believe your semifinal match against Megan and Joey was the last one to finish. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was the fourth semifinal match.
So first I want to ask you to briefly talk about your semifinal. Unlike in your quarterfinal match, you were second going into Final Jeopardy, and your win condition depended on Megan getting final wrong for you to win. How did you feel after Mayim revealed you came up with the correct response of who is Lady Chatterley, and were you mentally prepared to play another 2 games of Jeopardy immediately after?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I won the semifinals, like a lot of it was a sigh of relief. And then I forget, I don't think we had dinner then. I think we had dinner later. But yeah, I just remember being super exhausted after the second final. Like the 3 back-to-back games was really taxing. Obviously, it was sweetened by winning, but that was definitely exhausting, those 3 games.
Was Lady Chatterley something you knew right away? Because I saw you, I think I remember you crossed something out at first.
Yeah, no, what happened was when they revealed the category and then like they said characters from banned books or whatever, I was thinking and I was like, I can only really think of 4 banned books or 5 banned books that would come up here. And I don't know, I was thinking Madame Bovary, Lady Chatterley's Lover, Satanic Curses, and then like Tropic of Cancer or something. And I was like, they're not gonna ask about 2 or 3 of these. So Lady Chatterley made the most sense. And I wrote that down immediately, and then with like 5 seconds left on the Final Jeopardy timer, I was like, did I mess this up? And I was like, it's too late anyways. So
I think that explains the curious look on your face when mine was like reading your response. Liz, your semifinal match was, in my opinion, the most thrilling of the 4 to watch at home. For those listening who don't know, Liz won her semifinal match in a tiebreaker against Kristen. After all 3 of you, the third player being Emmy, got Final Jeopardy correct, you and Kristen were tied at $22,000 apiece. Your tiebreaker category was the fine arts, and the correct response was who is George Gershwin. This was a clue that both of you knew. In fact, Liz even gasped and covered her mouth when she realized she knew the answer. Could you describe the tiebreaker in greater detail? I think Kristen mentioned that it took a fair amount of time to set up the tiebreaker. So what were you thinking about while you were waiting in anticipation?
After Final Jeopardy and we both got it right, I was like, oh my God, not this again, because I had finished the quarterfinal game in a tie going into Final Jeopardy as well. But I ended up sneaking out a win there, and it was very nice. This one, I ended up going to the tiebreaker because we both knew it. And as soon as the clue came up, I think we all knew that we all knew it. Like I would have been shocked had Kristen or Emmy gotten it wrong, unless I had gotten it wrong as well, right? It seemed pretty open. The Tower of London, we were all kind of like, okay, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. But then for the tiebreaker, it did take a good amount of time to set up because I think it was Maya and Bialik's first tiebreaker ever. And so they were like, okay, it's a tiebreaker. We cut everything. And then they had us do the pickup where they announced what the category was. And it was the fine arts. And then we had a pretty good amount of time just sitting there waiting for them to set it up, talking through it, whatever, making sure everything was all set and that we hadn't like been leaked a clue or anything. And I remember thinking like the fine arts, like, is it going to be a painting? Is it going to be a composer? I was like, those are both rough for me. Like, I know the small amount of art that I've seen in person when I was traveling, like with like my mom has taken me to art museums and stuff. I was like, just fingers crossed it's something Boston local and I can pull it out. And I got lucky because the question was about An American in Paris, which was one of the two like long scores that I annotated in high school for Music IB. And I honestly don't remember what the other one was. This is the one that I spent like 3/4 of a year annotating and listening to almost every single day. And I just got very, very lucky that it was something that I knew. And I have not been historically great on the buzzer, but I got in. I needed to. And I was just astonished because, and I told someone else this, but at no point did I ever think there was a chance in hell of me making it to the finals until that moment when the clue came up and I knew it. And I was like, oh my God, this could happen. Like, I had watched Emmy and Kristen play their first games and we had gotten to know each other over the course of the week. And I was like, oh, it would be an honor to lose to them. Like, they're both so good. But it just all worked out that day.
Sounds like you went through all the emotions in
that
game.
Oh, yeah.
Raymond, you won your semifinal match in a lock against Nam and Neha. We touched upon your $5,021 wager in the last episode and the reasoning behind it, but I want to know your thoughts after the game. I believe your semifinal was the first one to tape. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
So you were one of the few who had seen every match of the JNCC, whether you played in it or watched from the audience. Knowing you finished with $20,799, were you worried at all you'd be surpassed by another winner? Or did you wait until the end of Isaac's semifinal match to think to yourself, okay, I'm safe, or I could be in trouble here?
Yeah, so I went into Final Jeopardy in my semifinal in like the worst position to be in, basically, where it's like I feel like I'd almost have it locked up, but there's still a case for like making a decent wager and trying to totally lock it up, which is what I ended up doing. And that wager obviously didn't pay off. So I was very, very concerned, like from the moment that I knew my answer was wrong, that I wasn't going to move on because either Nam or Neha had the same wrong answer to Final Jeopardy that I had. And so when they were ruled incorrect, I knew mine was going to be incorrect as well. So even before it came up on screen that I was wrong, I was worried from that moment. And so pretty much for all of Isaac's game, I was just watching and like kind of like cheering for all of them to do badly, basically, because I wanted the scores to be like low enough to give me a better chance. And I'm glad, just for my sake, that game ended up being the one that produced a winner with a lower score than my own, so I didn't have to be on edge for multiple games waiting and seeing like, is my score going to be enough?
For all three of you, going into the finals, what was a category that you absolutely did not want to see, whether it's a subject you're generally weaker at or based on another category you had in your previous games?
I kind of tip my hand, but anything sports is not in my wheelhouse. I can usually do like Olympics or like outdoor sports, because I did swimming and like I follow like the Olympics, but I don't know football, baseball, basketball, anything like that.
Yeah, for me, it's funny. It was musicals, and then I think the first category that showed up in the finals was musicals, and I was like, "Oh, I know like two of these. We're good. I'm not going to completely tank this." So, Erica, we're good.
I'm so mad about the musicals category. If I could hop in here, that would be, right before we walked on, I was like, I want us to get a musicals category. That's the only thing I feel like I could sweep against these two. And then we got it, and I knew all of them, and I don't think I got in on the buzzer on a single one. I was like just fuming. And at my watch party, everyone was like, come on, Liz, come on.
And Raymond, how about you?
I would not have wanted to see like a fashion category. I am not a fashion gay, so if you ask me about like the different types of hats or whatever, like that's not my thing.
So something that I noticed while looking at the stats for all 36 of us was the buzzer percentage of the 12 semifinalists. You three weren't winning the buzzer race as often as your opponents, and in fact, between the quarterfinals and the semifinals, all three of your buzz percentages dipped a bit. However, the deciding factor that I think led to each of your victories was accuracy. The three of you came in second, third, and fourth in that category, accuracy, with the exception of Joey being first. After each of you won your semifinal matches, was there ever a moment when you thought, I need to get a better handle of the buzzer if I'm going to win this thing, or was that a non-factor?
I felt pretty good on the buzzer after my quarterfinal and semifinal. Obviously, I was getting in on the buzzer enough to win both of those games in locks. But I definitely felt, just from the length of the tape day and the nerves of being in the finals, that like my grip on the buzzer was not as good. And I could tell that even going into the finals, that like my buzzer ability was not going to be matching up to what it was in my previous games. And there wasn't really anything I could do about it, which was kind of frustrating. I could tell that I was not going to dominate on the buzzer, and I knew it was going to be a lot more knowledge based.
I think actually having like the back-to-back-to-back games helped there, because I was just more familiar with it like recently, I guess. It was funny whenever they were like, you have to press it again and again. Like you keep pressing the buzzer basically, right? Because it might not register the first time. I was only like pressing it once. And I noticed that like halfway through the final, and I was like, this is working. So I guess I won't switch it up. But I was like, this is odd.
Yeah, I'm weak on the buzzer. I know that. I really was just kind of like, well, I mean, that is what it is. I'll buzz in when I can. But as far as like accuracy goes, I do think I played it a lot safer than a lot of people do. I mean, when I'm sitting at home, it's a lot easier to say like, oh, I'd buzz in on that or I wouldn't. But in the moment, having to say I would buzz in on that or I wouldn't, like I know that 100% or not, I usually was like, I'm not going to buzz in if I'm not sure, because I was afraid of making a fool of myself on TV. That was a big thing. I was very scared of saying something that then I'd get memed on later, which happens. So it wasn't unreasonable. So I mean, that was one thing for me. I was actually playing it a lot safer than I was expecting to.
Next question is fairly simple. Were you a lights person or a sound person when it came to ringing in?
Just vibes.
Just vibes.
Yeah, I like couldn't tell you. We were talking about it and on set, and every time I like thought about it for too long, I would start buzzing in too early or too late. So I just had to kind of not think about it and just be like focusing on the question, and that's what I'd buzz in. I buzz in when they finish, whatever indicates that.
Jez?
I think it was lights.
And Raymond?
I definitely focused on the lights for most of the tournament. I do remember like towards the end of the finals when I obviously for like the whole first game was not doing very well at getting in on the buzzer. Like I kind of tried to be more just intuitive with it and see if I could get on the sound, and that obviously worked kind of well because I got in on like a really good streak in Double Jeopardy in the second game of the finals. But I don't know how much of that was actually a change in my buzzer approach causing that, and how much was just it just happened to turn out that way.
So I asked Raymond this question last week, but for Jaskaran and Liz, because you appeared in 3 games each, you had the opportunity to tell 3 different stories to America. My question is, what were some of the stories that didn't make it to air? And if applicable, was there any particular reason why you didn't choose a certain story to tell?
The one I really wanted to make to air that didn't was that when I applied to be an orientation leader at Northeastern, you had to like do a personal project that was like, explain like who you are and why you wanted to be an OL. And people did like song parodies or like art projects. And I was like, I'll use iMovie, my very limited knowledge of iMovie, to make an episode of Jeopardy about myself where I'm playing all 3 contestants and the host. And then the answer is always, who is Liz Feltner? And it was very cute. And it went over well because I got the job. And they wouldn't let me talk about it.
Aw, dang.
Very sad. Yeah.
That's a great one. How about you, Jez?
I'm trying to think. I didn't really have any. It was funny when they were asking like initially in the application, they were like, these have to be pretty much all academic. And I was like, well, screw it. Like, I don't know what to put here. So we're just going to put a bunch of stories. And I didn't really have too much that I wasn't mad, that I wasn't happy about them not making it to air. I think it was actually kind of difficult coming up with stuff that was like good for TV because most of the other stuff is just like college kids like being stupid. So, like, I don't really want my parents to hear this.
That won't fly on prime time at all.
Yeah, so I was just like, I'll play it safe here. We'll just say boring stuff.
I have a comment about one of my stories about something that happened recently. My second story about visiting the Baha'i Faith Center has like had some weird legs to it down the road that like just the other day, like someone associated with like the Baha'i faith reached out to someone who used to be my coworker and said like, pass this along to Raymond. We want to talk to him, interview him, whatever. And I'm intrigued as to how that's going to go. But I'm pleasantly surprised that like people in the Baha'i faith noticed me talk about their faith on TV. I think that was kind of cool.
Now we're going to get into match-specific questions / details I have written here. Some things that I want to explore a little bit that related to the games itself. So for game one of the finals, in terms of clues, there's not much to talk about, actually. The only note I have written in my notes here is MYTHIC Constellations for 1600, which was the daily double Jaskaran wagered 10,000 on. At that point in the game, Jaskaran had 22,800, Raymond had 7,000, and Liz had 6,200. Jazz, did you bet 10,000 because you were confident in MYTHIC Constellations or felt like you had enough room to potentially seal up the finals right then and there? Because watching it at home, that was definitely a tipping point in the finals from the way I saw it.
Yeah, it's definitely the latter of those two. I don't really know too much about constellations. I'm not like an astrology guy or whatever. But I was like, okay, we can, gamble on this a little. And I just threw out a guess and it happened to be right. So,
And then the second note I had down here, how much time was there between game one and game two of the finals?
I don't remember.
It was not much time. We didn't get to go back and sit down. We were just still standing there and went right into it. So effectively no time.
I don't remember how you guys were feeling, but I was like not having a good time at the time.
I remember that well.
I was really doing bad. I was like, can I go home? And I blacked out a lot of that. I was really, really tired. I had not slept well because of the time difference. Which is like kind of a cop out, but
I could tell.
I crashed hard.
I could tell that like Mayim was really tired as well, and like trying hard not to let it show. That, like as soon as like the taping of stuff was done, that like she took off her heels, and I remember like it made her feel like extra relatable. Of like, yeah, she's tired too. She's ready to go home.
As soon as we were done with pictures, she like took off her hairpiece. She was like, "Get this out of here!" Yeah. And I was like, "That's so relatable. That is so relatable."
Oh my god, that's great. During the short break period you had between game one and game two, Liz or Raymond, did you feel like you needed to change something up? Was there anything that you felt like you needed to adjust in the moment going into game two, or did you just want to move on to game two?
I thought I was toast, and I was. So I was like, I just want a snack, and I did not get one. No, I like don't remember. I was just very frustrated, but it wasn't productive. I was like, I don't know what else I could change. I'm buzzing on the questions I know, and I'm just not fast enough, and they know more than me. So I was like, this is fine. I'll just stand here and look cute.
I think going into the second game of the finals, I was probably more concerned about like shoring up second place. I didn't feel like I had that much of a chance to get up to first place, and I don't know how much that affected my play style in the second game of the finals, but having gone I went into Final Jeopardy in the first game of the finals in third, but managed to move up to a solid second by wagering it all and getting that Final Jeopardy correct. So I think I definitely had a little bit of renewed confidence, but not so much renewed confidence that I was like, yeah, I'm going to storm back and take this.
Moving on to game two, Jazz, you ran the food combos category in the Jeopardy round. Was that something that occurred to you in the moment, or was that something you didn't find out until the box scores released?
No, I didn't know that in the moment. I just I think especially when you're doing well in a particular round, you just like in the zone and you don't particularly notice until you hit like a point like a daily double or something where there's a pause, then you can kind of take it in a little. But yeah, so much of like the finals, just like going back to game one was luck. I mean, I just had like pretty much I hit I think yeah every daily double. So I mean that's kind of the story of it.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my follow-ups. You were able to find all 6 daily doubles of the finals, capitalizing on 5 of them. Did your approach to the daily doubles change every time you found one? And obviously, you just said it was just luck that you got all of them, but it sounds like that only occurred to you after the fact, like you just said.
Yeah, I guess in the second game I was thinking about it, and then I think when I got the either the first or the second one, whatever one was on the headless horseman, I was like the idea here is probably like to cheapen the daily doubles so they don't actually matter much in the grand scheme of things since the game my game one score was so high. So I was like, let me just like I think I bet 500 on that or something. So it was just trying to make it like the second one a low scoring game if possible.
And that was actually going to be another follow-up of mine, alliterate phrases for 1,000, the 4th daily double. And I was actually going to ask you why you wagered so conservatively, wagering only 500. But there you go, guys. Going back to the food combos category, are you a food and drink type of guy, like a foodie, or is that just a category you're generally good at?
I don't really know. I guess I spent a lot of time watching Hell's Kitchen or like whatever, Gordon Ramsay puts out on YouTube. Big fan of him.
Okay, that's all for the game-related questions. So moving back to some questions about our Jeopardy experience. What aspect of the Jeopardy experience surprised you the most?
I think, especially coming from Texas, the COVID stuff was like, oh my God, how much of this do we have to do?
Hmm.
Especially when it came down to wearing masks on set at like every point when you weren't filming pretty much or like on camera. Definitely the COVID regulations were like annoying to deal with at the time. Obviously, Omicron was like going wild at that point and it was all justified. It's just like coming from Texas, it was like a bit of a shock. I was like, oh,
Yeah, I think the Sony Pictures lot was the last place you'd think you'd catch COVID. How about you, Liz?
Yeah, for me, I was very surprised by how nice everybody was around set, I guess. I wasn't really expecting like all of the crew and stuff to be so friendly. I'd had like a couple brushes with Hollywood. Nothing like really as big as Jeopardy or like even on that like scale of magnitude. But I got the impression that it was kind of cold and kind of scary, but everybody was super, super friendly. Like the other contestants and all of the producers we were working with were just awesome.
Raymond, anything you didn't mention last episode that you'd like to mention here?
Just from thinking about it, I guess I kind of surprised myself with how well I did, honestly. Like I obviously hoped to like win games and runaways and stuff, but I know that like so much of Jeopardy is luck's it's luck of like who you go up against and what you know and stuff like that. I obviously hoped to win, but I didn't necessarily expect to win. So having that happen was its own kind of like pleasant surprise.
Leading up to the show's premiere, I think it's fair to say that ABC did a subpar job of informing people how the tournament would be structured and how many students would be in it. When Mike Richards was the executive producer, it was rumored there would be teams involved and only 15 students from 15 different colleges and universities would be in it, with the grand prize being $100,000 for each winning student. But that all changed when Michael Davies became the new AP last summer. In hindsight, did you like the way our tournament was structured, or would you have preferred to play in a quote-unquote traditional style tournament of 15 players in wildcard positions?
I don't know. I really don't care. I'm pretty indifferent with regards to the format. It was nice to like meet more people and to be there for longer. I think that if it had only been 15 contestants, it would have been a lot shorter of a shooting schedule. But also, it was like worse odds, When I first heard that, I was really scared. I was remember like getting the call that was explaining everything to me, all the details of like travel times and format of the tournament, and I had a post-it note where he'd drawn out a diagram of like 4 semifinal games, 3 finalists, like this and this and that. I'm pretty indifferent. I care more about the structure of the actual gameplay itself. I'm really glad that they didn't touch that. I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed teams, just because it feels like kind of betraying the spirit of Jeopardy. It's not about like how well you play and then the best person moves on or whatever. So I'm not unhappy with how it went.
Yeah, I think it was fun. I had similar thoughts. Like, I think the tournament was structured, like the way they structured it was fine. I think the only thing is obviously like the four semifinalists who wins the round is not afforded a spot in the finals. And obviously they're trying to remedy that with the second chance tournament. I just think a lot of that was one thing that sort of stuck out to me. I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Like whoever's in this place is going to get shafted.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned that, Liz, about like you doing like the whole diagram thing of like figuring out how the tournament works. I remember when I got the call. I think Mindy explained it once to me, exactly once on the phone, and I was very confused. She said 36 people, and I'm like, excuse me, 36 people? And I pretty much like put that in the back of my head, thinking they were just lying to me for like privacy reasons or like confidentiality reasons. And once it didn't hit me that there would be 36 people until I got in line for the COVID tests, and I counted more than 15 people. I'm like, oh, they weren't lying. There's 36 people here. Oh man.
I can tell you that as like a GIS major, it's a thing in maps, especially like in the older days of atlases. They would put in like a fake town or a fake road somewhere on the map to make it easy for them to catch anyone who is copying their maps. So basically you assume they were doing the same kind of thing to you, like giving you fake information about the format. So if that information leaked, they could trace it back to you and be like, Jeric told everyone we're gonna kick him out.
Oh my god, that's great. Yeah, I remembered that from a book I read. I think it was Paper Towns that was a plot point. But that's such a funny analogy. I love that. Would you have preferred to have been on the syndicated show despite the results you achieved in this tournament? Why or why not?
I definitely am glad that I was in the tournament. It brought more like special attention because it was a special event. I was able to like represent not just myself, but like the school and the community and all of that. And I made like friends in my peer group of college age people. So pretty much I could go on and on about like why I preferred the tournament to being on the normal show, but that's definitely, I'm glad I ended up in the tournament.
Yeah, same as Raymond. Just kind of a retweet to everything that he said. I'm like a big advocate for Northeastern. I've kind of name dropped everything, but I've been involved with like the homecoming committee and like the orientation leader, and I'm a tour guide, I'm a presidential ambassador, and I'm in like a billion clubs, and like that's just who I am. I love Northeastern a lot. So I was very proud to be able to represent them. And I think that the syndicated show, some people argue like, is the college tournament, does it have easier questions or harder questions? And I can't say for sure, but I do think that it has less like pop culture and like, I don't know, more history questions that we would not know. The college tournament is more suited to our age group. And I definitely think I would have done worse on the syndicated program.
Yeah, I'm glad I was on the tournament because I like was reading stuff about the shooting schedule, especially if you were to win for the syndicated one, which seems rough because they were kind of just back to back in it, and like it seemed really rough in the contestants. And then also from a question standpoint, I think like primarily the syndicated show is like a mainstay of like American pop culture, and it appeals to like an older audience. So a lot of the questions geared towards like a WASP type person, in that it's like a lot of the pop culture stuff is like from the 60s, and then having grown up in like an Indian household with two Indian parents, I was like, I'm not going to know any of this. So I think, yeah, prefer the tournament for those reasons as well.
That's fair. And speaking of tournaments, Jazz, you're heading to the Tournament of Champions later this year. I know you told us that the producers called you near the beginning of the JNCC to tell you that you're actually going to be in the Tournament of Champions, when it was a little bit unclear if the JNCC winner would be in the Tournament of Champions. But what was your initial reaction like, and who are you looking forward to meeting or facing?
Yeah, I was definitely really excited when I got the call. And then I was also happy for Isaac, because I think they let me know in that call that Isaac would be going to second chance tournament, which is good. So hopefully he does really well there. I'm excited to, I guess, meet a bunch of new people, and yeah, it's going to be rough.
Have you watched episodes of, Matt Amodio, Amy Schneider, Andrew He, or do you still have to like watch those episodes to get a feel for what they're strategy or gameplay style is like?
I guess I might watch some episodes. I watched them like in preparation, just because those were the recent Jeopardy episodes out, and those are the ones I was like buzzing on the buzzer to prepare for. But yeah, I mean, they all seem like really well rounded. I'm not sure if there's a category that like they're weak in or whatever. I'm sure everyone's gonna be great.
We're winding down to the last few questions here. Are there any fun behind the scenes stories not related to gameplay that you like to share? I know Liz, Jazz, Raymond, you shared the story about Maya being just like done after the finals, but is there anything else like that you like to share with everyone?
I remember, I can't remember if it was y'all or what, but I remember coming back to the Wheel of Fortune set afterwards, and like some people were like taking pictures, like holding up the wedges from the wheel. Were y'all there when that happened? I don't remember.
I do have photos of me on the Wheel of Fortune set. And it wasn't like I was like, oh, like I'd love to get a picture of the Wheel of Fortune set. It was like, I was like, can I have a makeup wipe? I really just want to take this off my face and go. And all of the like makeup and hair ladies were kind of just around, and some of the producers, and they were like, do you want pictures of the wheel set? Come on, get up there, get up there, get up there. And I was like, okay. And like they were the ones taking my picture. I was like, thank you. They're like, before you take your makeup off, we'll get a photo.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's covered and you can't see it.
I remembered seeing Isaac holding like one of the wedges up, but I couldn't remember who else. I know that I didn't get to hold any.
I did not hold a wedge.
Uh-huh.
They were like, do you want to hold it? And I was like, no. I was like, I can't touch that.
Yeah, it's sacred.
Take my money. Yeah. Two different thought trains there, but yeah.
Y'all listening to this can't see the video footage, but my mouth was wide open while they were talking about that. I did not know that at all. Oh my god, that is amazing. Jazz, were you there for that?
No, I had my phone off the whole time like a good little boy. So yeah, you delinquents were out of it.
Oh my god, that must have been a lot of fun. What was the night after the finals were taped was like? I think you guys said you went out. I think Jazz, you bought like a round of drinks for everyone. What was that night like?
Yeah, as it was obligated to. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time. Had dinner with everyone. Just sort of post tournament de-stressing. It was very nice.
There was only like one restaurant that was open. And it was like a weird pizza bar and grill. Like it was just the strangest restaurant.
Like a tavern type thing? I don't know what's going on there.
But I got like pasta. I don't know what was happening there.
Yeah, y'all finished like super late, right?
It was super late. Like It was like 9 when the game ended, and then we had to take a billion photos, and they're all really awkward.
Yeah, we got back at like 11, and then I remember because I texted my parents because they like kept calling. I had like 8 missed calls. Or they're like, "How'd you do?" And then I just texted them like, "I won," and then turned my phone off, and I was like, "Okay, we're good." But it was like 11, yeah, and on like Pacific time, I think.
Did any posts or messages from randoms in social media while the tournament was airing catch your attention? And if so, could you share some of the more interesting or funny ones with everyone listening?
Oh, there's one I have to go find. But while I'm doing that, there was a whole, not fiasco, but there was like one man on Twitter who was very mad that Emmy, Kristen, and I didn't know what NATO was. And it was like a whole thing. But I like tweeted, I was like, guys, I know what NATO is. And that one was so silly. But there was a man on Twitter who I was like, Liz writes down, what is the Gilded Age? Yet another foolish answer from Liz. And I thought that was so funny. Like, I really didn't get that much negative interaction. I was very, very lucky. But that was really good. Yet another foolish answer from Liz. My friends will say that.
I had a very notable Twitter interaction after the tournament ended. I got second place, obviously, and Kelly Loeffler, who you may or may not know was a senator from the state of Georgia, tweeted like congratulations to Raymond Goslow on his second place finish. And she, in 2021, lost her race to be like reelected to the Senate. And it was like her whole candidacy was kind of like a meme and weird and stuff. But I responded to her tweet and said, "Oh, it's how sweet. Another second place finish. We're reaching out in support." And a lot of people really liked that tweet. It got like 10,000 likes and a couple thousand retweets. It was very popular. Just a couple days ago from when we're recording this now, so like a month after the tournament and like that tweet was sent and all that, I was at this event in Marietta near where I work, and I was just walking in and somebody like recognized me and was just like, that Kelly Loeffler tweet was really good.
That's iconic. That is legend behavior.
I've never heard of someone complimenting someone IRL for a ratio. Like that's just so weird. Oh my god, that was one of the most glorious ratios I've ever seen. Holy shit, what a banger of a tweet. Jazz, how about you?
Yeah, I had a good tweet after the president was like, we're gonna light the tower, which is like the big UT mainstay thing or something. And then I said like, I'm not going to class tomorrow or something. And I was actually on a bus when I tweeted that. I fell asleep. And then when the bus came to Austin, like 3 hours later, I had like 100 texts, like, holy shit, like what happened? I think the tweet got up to like 160,000 or something crazy. I was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, you got mad impressions on that tweet. I was like, damn, this tweet is popping off. Holy shit. How did you not wake up with your like phone blowing up? Did you put it on like silent or something? Or
I don't know. I think I was just dead asleep. I was dead tired. That was the night after. So or the morning after. So I was driving in from Dallas to Austin. So
the algorithm smiled on you there.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah.
Some great content. You should have taken advantage and like promote something like under your tweet. I see that a lot with like viral.
I got texts. I got like DMs, like a few DMs from those people who were like, "Can you promote like this?" One of them was like the vibrator thing. And I was like, "Dude, I'm not going to promote it."
Sunset lamp that's under every viral tweet.
Yeah, there's like the lamp thing. There's like curtains. There's like a vibrator. I was like, dude, what am I gonna do with this?
The LED strips. Like, yeah. I got that.
Yeah, and I was like, no.
Oh my god, that's funny. Did they promise you like a free item, or like were they gonna like pay you or anything?
They were gonna pay me or something.
Okay.
I just didn't respond. I think I was like, no.
You already got
You're like,
250,000. I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't need to become an influencer.
Yeah, you can't buy me.
Oh man, that's great. Oh my lord. Finally, the last question I have here in my notes: what was the best purchase you made with your winnings thus far? And if you haven't bought anything of significance yet, do you have any plans to buy anything that's quote unquote expensive?
Oh, for me, I bought a record player. You can kind of see it behind me if you're on video.
Oh, cool.
I love it. It was like something I've been eyeballing for a while. It's not even that expensive, but I was like, I'm getting one. The other thing that I just splurged on was I went to New York very last minute for spring break, and I just was originally going to stay in Boston and give tours or whatever. And I was like, no, like we're gonna go to New York. We're gonna have a very luxurious vacation, staying in a random part of Queens and taking the bus. But it was so fun. The big thing I'm gonna splurge on as soon as I can is I really want to adopt a dog. After graduation, once I've settled. So that's probably gonna be what I'm saving for.
Do you have your eye on a breed, or you have not an idea yet?
I want to get a rescue, so whoever needs me.
Jazz, how about you?
I have not purchased anything significant yet. I was watching the tournament, the March Madness men's tournament, or I guess the women's too, and Texas seems to be doing pretty okay. So if they make it to the Final Four, I'll probably try and cop like last minute tickets and have a good time there. The coach gave me his number, so I'm gonna
That sounds like a plan right there.
Yeah. So if they make it that far, I'm definitely gonna look to go.
Is your bracket still intact?
No, it was wrecked by the first game. All 3 games was completely destroyed. But hopefully Texas, pulls out a dub.
Yeah, there have been a ton of upsets recently I've been seeing on Twitter. Raymond, how about you?
So I haven't really bought anything majorly significant, like certainly not since cashing the check. But I do have an interesting story about like the check and all of that. Because first of all, just like kind of having the money in my account has been like a nice cushion of like knowing, I'm not about to overdraw my account or anything like that. But I went to go cash the check on like a Saturday morning at the bank. And so it was like really busy. The line was like out the door. And I went there with Jordan, my spouse, and we were just in the back of the line looking very queer, basically. And this lady who worked at the bank was also like very overtly, obviously queer, came back to us and was like, "Can I help you with anything?" And I was like, "I'm cashing this like check that's too large to cash at the ATM." And she was like, "Sure, I'll pull you aside to like the side room and we'll get it all taken care of." And so it's like I think it's the first ever example of gay privilege. So that's my my money story, but at the moment it's just kind of sitting in my account and providing a nice cushion of knowing like I'm not about to run out of money anytime soon, and that's a really good feeling.
What a great way to put it. Gay privilege. That's a good one. Okay, so that is all the questions I have on my sheet. Thank you guys so much again for participating in this podcast episode. I'm sure the people listening either took one, two, or maybe a couple things away from this episode. I certainly hope they did. So let's wrap things up. If you'd like to promote any social media or where people can find you, go right ahead.
Yeah, remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Rate on iTunes. Where are you posting this?
I have no idea. I started out on Spotify. Some people want me to put it on other platforms, but I'm still new to the podcast space, so I'll put it up.
Check us out on Podbean, on Spreaker.
That's one of the platforms people recommended, so I might.
Oh, I know. No, y'all can follow me on Twitter if you want to. I'm at Liz Feltner 1, and then I'm on TikTok. That's like my new thing I've been doing. I'm at Silly Goofy Liz on TikTok. I've made a couple of Jeopardy TikToks just because. Why not? I'm capitalizing off my 15 minutes of fame.
Jazz?
Yeah, I guess like, follow, subscribe, and I'm on Twitter. I should probably get on Instagram. That'd be a good idea. But I'm on Twitter at JSingMOK. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my Twitter now because I had it for like a couple of years and I was just kind of lurking, like following what I wanted to do. And then I finally posted when the Jeopardy stuff started. I was like, no, I'm not sure what to do with this now. But yeah, I'll probably post some stupid stuff on there. We'll see.
And Raymond?
Most of my social media is private, but my Twitter is my engage with the public type of account. So it's at frogs _ letter N _ maps, frogs and maps. I'm actually on a bit of a social media break right now, so I won't be posting or seeing anything for about the next month, but I plan to make my triumphant return in a few weeks.
All right, perfect. And like everyone here said, make sure you guys like this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Subscribe for future episodes. I might do, who knows, maybe more interviews with JNCC contestants or Jeopardy contestants in general. I definitely want to make this like a thing where I interview like contestants about their experience and talk about the details about their games specifically. So make sure you subscribe for that type of content if you're interested. And yeah, once again, thank you, Raymond, Jazz, and Liz for doing this. I know you guys are really busy. You're in the middle of your semester, so thank you for taking about an hour of your time to do this with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Of course.
This was so fun.